Welcome to episode 8 of the Avgeeks Assemble Podcast. I am Anthony and I am your host this week. In this episode, we have another very special guest joining us to talk about all things photography, aviation and Instagram. Joining me to speak with our special guest this week is Martin.
Hello.
You all right, mate?
Not bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. There's just the two of us this week. The logistics of running a podcast have come to bite us on the backside, unfortunately. So we'll get started. As you'll remember, in the last episode, I was happy to announce that our podcast has now transitioned into a video podcast. So by now, some of you should have seen our last episode with Chris, which is available on YouTube. I did also announce that it's going to be coming to Co-op Online, which is still happening, just hasn't arrived there just yet. Rich is working hard in the background to get that up there for us, which is brilliant. And obviously the audio version of the podcast is still available through Spotify and through Apple Podcasts as well. So just have a bit of a general chit chat just before we introduce our guest this week. So obviously a few interesting things have happened this week, Martin.
Yes, so the BBMF Hurricane is finally out in public.
Yes.
Honestly, it's been at where I work and it's been torture seeing it. So I can't say anything, I'm not allowed.
Yeah. So now it's been seen in the wild in its new Night Fighter paint scheme. If people haven't seen it already on the social medias, it does look very nice indeed.
I think it's going to be a bit hard to take photos of.
Yeah,
especially against the moody sky, which we usually get over here in the UK. But
yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, I think it looks great, and I think if it's going to be flying alongside the Dakota, or it's going to be flying alongside another Spitfire, I think it will give that contrast there, especially with some of the camo Spitfires that we've got in the BBMF.
And the exhaust stains on it already look epic.
Yeah, I did comment on that to our editor Mike. Said that it sort of looks like it's going to stain the paintwork nice and early already. So I don't know whether they took that into account when they chose black, but
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see. Also, as well, this week, obviously we've had this is not really sort of aviation, well, I suppose it is, but the HMS Queen Elizabeth has departed for its the first leg of its deployment, and obviously on board they've got 617 Squadron, which is the Dam Buster Squadron of F-35Bs, as well as the VMFA 211 Squadron of the US Marines that have joined up again with them, as well as last week's guest Chris Suckling. He's taken his Merlin onto HMS Queen Elizabeth. So if you're listening, Chris, good luck. We already love the pictures and the sort of stories that you've sent out to the world from the deck, especially that one of the F-35 vertical landing the other day. That was an amazing picture, that was. So many more like that, please, mate. That'd be great.
Echo what you say, mate, and obviously best of luck to everyone on the deployment, and hope they all come back safe.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, it's a long deployment. They've got a hell of a route to tackle ahead of them, going through sort of Mediterranean, through the Suez Canal, through the Middle East, South China Sea. They've got so many places they're stopping off. It's unbelievable.
As long as they don't handbrake turn the QE in the Suez, will be all right.
Yeah, I don't think the Royal Navy want to be responsible for another blockage of the Suez Canal anytime soon. That would be, right. I don't think that would go down very well, would it? Right. So anyway, so that's enough chit chat. We'll get cracking with introducing our guest. But before we do so, obviously we do state this on every single episode, and we have to, because we need you to know that it is our opinions only, and the opinion of our guest, and that's the same for this episode, and it will be the same for future episodes. So now that's out of the way, it's time for our guest to join us on this flight. We are still not quite sure on the final destination, but we will see where it goes. With us today is a fantastic aviation photographer from South Carolina in the USA, Owen Hewitt, who's also known as Owen @owen.aviation.photo on Instagram. Hi, Owen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good stuff, mate. It looks a bit nicer over there than it is in the UK today.
Yeah, can't complain. It's a nice 68 Fahrenheit, gentle breeze. It's been quite a nice spring so far.
Happy days. I wish we could say the same, Martin. I mean, we've had moments where it's been okay, but
I think our weather's like a month behind.
Yeah.
It's been isolating because of COVID.
That's it, mate. That's it. Yeah. The weather's took a month off because of COVID. Yeah. So no, it's great to have you, Owen. Thanks for coming. We've got a lot of questions lined up for you.
Sounds good.
So yeah. So just obviously one of the first ones, just before we do our icebreaker that we do with every guest. How did you get into aviation, and did you get into the photography side of things at the same time, or did they come separately? How did that start for you?
I've always had a fascination with planes, and that came from my dad. He would always take me to air shows locally ever since I can remember. As far as the photography side of things, I dabbled in it in the late 90s, early 2000s. I had bought a film camera, Pentax, and tried using it. But because of film back in the day, right, you had 24 exposures. You had to be very selective. And so I wasn't very good at honing my skills because I just didn't have the money to be spending on all the film. So I guess maybe 5-6 years down the road, they first started introducing the digital format. So I bought a Pentax IST. That was my very first one. Didn't have a very good lens on it. The lens I had on that one maybe went to 200 millimeters. So not a lot of reach. Very mediocre performance. I just didn't have a lot of time because I was in school and early in my career. And so as I've gotten into more and more advanced equipment, I moved to Nikon, and then just through reading about different lenses and what other people have used, and just started upgrading things here and there. Before I've got the setup I've got now, I had a pretty nice Sigma 100-400, and I had it tied to a D500, and I had that. That was my workhorse for a good couple of years, and then just recently moved to Sony. So I've got a Sony A9 Mark II, and I've got it married to a 200-600 millimeter. Haven't had a lot of opportunity because of COVID to flex its muscles really, but I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a few shows. There have been some canceled here in the Southeast recently. So my biggest opportunity, what it looks like at this moment, is going to be Oceania, which is in September.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's quite a big show, that one, from what I've seen from across the pond.
Yes, it's quite good. It's one of my favorites because of what they call the power demo, and it's basically where they almost send the entire fleet of planes they've got on site. Before it was a mix of legacy F-18s and then Super Hornets, and then they would send up H-60 helicopters to do mock rescues. E-2 Hawkeyes, they would send up all kinds of different planes up at the same time, and then it just perform some mock attacks and mock dogfights. It was it's quite a unique part of that basis show that I think it makes it stand out.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds really good. That's great. Just obviously, we'll obviously get onto the icebreaker, and obviously people who have listened to the podcast by now will know that we like to play a little game to do the icebreaker. So this week I thought, with Andrew not being here, I thought we'll mix things up a little bit, and I've created a new game. Well, I say new game in inverted commas, which we'll call Show, Base or Fly, which is basically just a geek version of Snog, Marry and Avoid. So what basically I'm looking for is if Owen, if you don't mind going first, you need to describe your bucket list air show to attend. So something that you've never attended before, anywhere in the world, the one base in the world that you want to visit, and then the one airframe that you'd either like to fly in or fly alongside to get photos of. And again, that can be anything in the world. And once you've described your bucket list trio, then we'll go to Martin, and I'll round things off. Is that all right?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. So so the one bucket list show that I've always wanted to go to is Air Tattoo. Right.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
We'd like to go there as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right. Yeah. So that's certainly a bucket list. You know, every time there's you know, the event, and then, you know, a few weeks later, there's all these awesome videos of, you know, arrivals, departures, and then of course the performances. And you know, I'll sit there on YouTube for hours, and I get the eye roll from my wife.
Yeah,
you know, but,
we all get that.
Yep.
right. But
Yep.
you know, I just think that's one of the neatest from a military presence. You know, you get all these different air forces kind of coming together in one place. Many different aircraft I've never had an opportunity to see. So I think that will be awesome. As far as the base that I would like to visit, I'd have to say Nellis out in Las Vegas, I think would be awesome. I would like to be out there during a red flag exercise. I thought, you know, you see lots of people who will make trips, you know, periodically through the year, who are local. Will get out there and get some pretty awesome shots as they're going into what they call the flex. I think everybody kind of camps out near the super speedway for Las Vegas.
Yep.
And then the aircraft that I'd like to fly or take pictures of, I'd have to say this is kind of retrospective. I know it doesn't fly anymore, but I wish that I had the opportunity to take photographs of the SR-71. I'd say that was that had to have been one of the most amazing aircraft to see in person. You know, I watch all the old, you know, programs, you know, Kelly Johnson and his amazing group of engineers to design that thing without a computer. You know, it boggles your brain. And then, you know, hearing stories of people witnessing it taking off, you know, it's basically no matter what you were doing at that very moment, you were going to stop, because it was going to stop you in your tracks, and you were going to pay attention to it because it was that loud. So it's something that impressive. I really wish I had the opportunity to take some photographs of that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to Duxford last year in between lockdowns, and we have in Duxford we have an SR-71 on display in the American hangar museum, and it's just to stand next to the thing is it's awe-inspiring. It really is. I just stood there just staring at it for about 20 minutes or so. It's amazing. And like you say, for Skunkworks to come up with it without computers, and it's all sort of calculations done by hand and things, it's an amazing feat of engineering. Yeah, no, there's some good answers there, mate. Some good answers. I'm interested to see what Martin's got.
So Airshow would probably have to be Max, or however you pronounce it, the one in Russia. Yeah. Like, to see all that Russian hardware. Obviously, we in Europe, we don't get to see it. I think the only time I've seen a Russian aircraft display was at RIA, and that was a Yak 130. But, you know, see like a Tu-22 or the Bear, flankers, fullbacks, the MiG-31s, just everything they have is just big and powerful, and I think that'd be a sight and a half.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. I think we've got a Harry who's part of the Avgeeks Assemble group, who's been lucky enough to go to a Max air show, and the stories he tells, he says it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, I mean, the opportunity to be able to go out to somewhere like Russia, especially with sort of the sort of global tensions and things between different nations. It's certainly an interesting place to visit, and certainly somewhere that's you're going to be looking over your shoulder maybe whilst you're there. But definitely go as a group, I would say. get it organised by someone who knows what they're doing.
100%.
Yeah. What about you? What about your base visit then, mate? What are you going for?
So I was going to say Nellis, but as soon as Owen's already picked that one,
we all want to do Nellis.
I'll probably have to say Langley or Dyes Air Force Base for the Raptors or the B1s when they're flying.
Yeah.
But seeing them like all day, that did me quite nicely. I'd come home deaf, but it's worth it.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Definitely. Yeah, but just get rid of the hearing. We don't need that to take photos. It's great. Yeah. And what about your? What about what to fly in or fly alongside?
I'd like to have air-to-air with CV22.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Like, I was going to say F14, but that's too obvious. Too obvious. So yeah, I mean, I love them airframes. I think the engineering in them, and I even like the looks, the short stubby wings, and
I agree, mate. I love the look of the Osprey. I know they're very much like a sort of chalk and cheese. Like some people love them, some people hate them, but I think they're absolutely fantastic machines. I do, and I love being at Mildenhall, seeing them take off and stuff. And obviously, I was a bit gutted not to see the MV22s when they came off the carrier a couple of weeks ago. But no, it's good to see the photos of them. So yeah, no, it's
100%.
It's a good list you've got there. Now, I'll be honest, I've created this game and half the answers that I was going to give have already been given. So I'm thinking on the fly now.
No pressure.
So my air show that I want to go to, and I've watched a lot of on YouTube, especially over the last couple of years. Well, not last year, with obvious, but is Oshkosh. I'd love to do Oshkosh. I think that just looks like an amazing week, and it is a full week of flying as well, from what I can gather.
It's just like a festival, isn't it? It's the air festival.
It's just like Glastonbury on steroids, but with planes instead of stages. It just looks amazing. Like it's just, and I think when it was it 2019 when it was last on, and they did that that evening display of the Raptor against these crazy big illuminated like thunderclouds, like these supercell thunderclouds, and that was glowing yellow from the sunset. And just the photos and the videography that came out of that one display, it was just, that was amazing. But I mean, obviously, there's a whole week of flying there to sort of savor. So that would definitely be one that I would put high on my list. Definitely.
I've been fortunate to go there 5 times. So.
Ooh, happy days.
Yeah, right.
And does YouTube do it justice, or
no,
is it...
No. you it's one of those things you must experience, and when you go, you got to go for the week, right? Because otherwise, you're something that you're going to miss.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got 10,000 airplanes in and out of there in that week's time, so it's definitely something to behold.
I mean, start saving and planning.
That's it, mate. That's it. I think that's as well. That's I think you've got a question about this as well, Martin. I think that ties into the difference between a UK air show and like a US air show, is that if a US air show is over multiple days, it will be very different each day. Am I right in what I'm saying there, Owen?
Well, they do highlight different things on different days, but they do have a set air show in the afternoons, and those are generally, for the most part, the same. Same performers, but they do have like they'll have one day they'll get a bunch of bombers to come and do just a fly through, and then they'll get like World War II, the Warbirds, or they'll have like P-47s and 51s and 38s come and do just a few passes, and but those are like those will be like on a single day, and but in the afternoons they'll have your typical aerobatic displays, Patty Wagstaff, those very, very famous, aerobatic pilots that, boggle the mind with their abilities. But yeah, and it's also kind of an expo, right? And sorts. Many manufacturers, Piper and Beechcraft and Cessna, they'll have huge displays, and they're trying to sell planes, right? So they know a lot of people are coming together to celebrate aviation. So it's a mixed bag of many different things.
I think that was one of the things that jumped out at me of the videos that I've seen of Oshkosh, is like that. I think on one of the days there was like a Boeing Dreamliner came in, 787, and then like there was a few other like sort of large wide body sort of airframes that like sort of landed, stayed for a couple of hours, and then disappeared again. So it's, it's very much sort of like was it Farnborough in this country that used to be the one that was like an expo, but obviously we don't really have it anymore, unfortunately.
Well, it's moved more away from an air show as to basically a sales pitch for the big companies.
Just a sales, it's less of an air show and more of a sales thing, isn't it? So yeah, but no, that's great. I think I've got one category left, haven't I?
You've got dream, base, and air to air.
Oh, base, yeah. Sorry, went off at a tangent there. Right, I was going to say Nellis during a red flag, obviously. To be honest, like, I just thinking outside the box, I'd actually like to go and see one of the RAF bases abroad. So like Akrotiri, or even down to the Falklands, just to get some different sort of photos, if you know what I mean.
Akrotiri, the Cyprus, they don't like spotters.
No, I know that. I know that it's in an ideal world. I'm talking here, not in the real world, but just to get like your typhoons and whatnot in like a sort of like a desert scene almost sort of thing, and just to sort of, that's it. Yeah, like fully tooled up, ready to go on a proper mission. Those sort of photos, but obviously that's sort of pie in the sky, isn't it, for the average hobbyist? But there we go. And then the last one, what I want to fly alongside,
I know what this is going to be,
or fly in. We'll see. What do you
Mozzie?
Yeah, it's a Mosquito. Yeah, to be honest, I'd just be happy seeing one from the ground. But if I could fly alongside one, then that would just be amazing. Yeah, Mosquito for me is one of the most beautiful planes ever created, and I can't wait for the couple that are being sort of revamped in the UK to be ready and to be flying again. That would just be amazing. Have you been lucky enough to see one, Owen? Because I know there's a couple over there in America, isn't there?
I've only seen them in museums. They've got one there at Oshkosh in their EAA museum. It's a phenomenal looking airplane, and it's amazing that it's all wood, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a total wood construction with the exception of the gear and obviously the engine parts and stuff.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's for me, it's just beautiful, just absolutely stunning. And if I could fly alongside one of them, taking a couple of photos, I'd be a happy man, definitely. Right, I think that's the icebreaker out the way. We all know each other a little bit better, so that's good. So Martin, I think you've got the next question. I think we might have covered a bit of it already, but
yes. So the first question is, what air shows did you visit when you were growing up?
So I grew up in South Carolina, so I've lived here all my life. So most of the shows I would attend growing up were Shaw Air Force Base, which is in Sumter, South Carolina. It's now home to the 20th Fighter Wing, so they're all F-16. But when I was growing up, early on, they had F-4s. And they also had A-10s. So they've had a variety of aircraft stationed at that base. And then Charleston Air Force Base is now a joint base, but essentially early on they had C-141s. And then back in, it was late 80s, early 90s, I got introduced to a new airframe, and I was kind of privy because we were at a camp, at a summer camp for I was in the Civil Air Patrol at that time, and we got a preview of the C17, and they had it was like a soft announcement around Charleston was going to be like the home base for that particular new airframe early on for the Air Force. So that was pretty cool. And
definitely.
So they would have a show once in a while, and then Beaufort Marine Base, which is just below Charleston. They do have periodically an air show. They were supposed to have one this year with the new Blue Angel team, but it got canceled due to COVID. They did go down there for a what they call a detachment practice. So they actually did go down and do some practice, but it wasn't for the public view unless you're off base. You can't really get a good shot off base, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For that particular base. But and then let's see, those were the main ones when I was growing up, because they were relatively close, within 4 hours drive.
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, obviously, the photos that you've got on your Instagram are absolutely fantastic. And I mean, do you take any sort of inspiration from anyone for your photography, or do you just sort of you just sort of see it in your own mind's eye and go for it that way?
I kind of look at many different styles, I guess. I've got quite a number of AvGeek friends online that I I follow and comment on, and I've certainly found a few that kind of inspire me to try a little different angle here and there. Mark Fingar, he's got some incredible photography, and he's got one of the most complicated tripods just setups I've ever seen. Once in a while he'll show a shot of it, but I understand it's all heavily modified by him, so it's all well balanced, and just some of his video work. I mean, if you watch his videos, it's almost like you're watching a simulation, because other than the jet, I mean, the jet will stay centered in the screen the entire time. It's like like he's a robot. It's incredible.
I've got to agree with you. I really have got to agree with you. I've seen, I mean, obviously Mark's work first sort of came to my attention through Instagram and his photos and stuff, but seeing some of the video work that he's produced over the last year or so, especially with the Raptor, it's just like you say, it's just your mind, because obviously he does it in sort of like slow motion as well. So obviously your mind just can't compute what it's seeing because of how stable that video is and how stable that image is. And it's just mind blowing to see. It's just
the first time I saw one of these videos, I thought it was fake.
Yeah, that's it. It's that good. It doesn't look real.
Yeah, no. I was like, that's not real. That can't be real.
That's it, mate. That's it. But no, I think I agree with what you're saying as well. I've seen that tripod setup that you're talking about, where he's got his stills camera on sort of the one side, and then he's got his video camera on the other, and they're both sort of honing in on the subject. And it's just it's an amazing setup. It really is. It's but no, I definitely agree with you there. As soon as I get the chance to see a Raptor, I think I'll be taking some inspiration from his work. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's a lot to learn. Even today, I'm horribly rusty right now because I haven't had an opportunity to get any shots, right? And unfortunately, photography is it's a perishable thing. It's like shooting, right? If you don't do it on a frequency, you kind of get out of practice. So I'm a bit disappointed about all the cancellations and whatnot to lessen my ability to get out and shoot. But it is what it is, so I'll just have to knock the rust off when I've got the opportunity again.
That's it. And I think me and Martin can totally agree with you there. We felt very similar to that when we were able to get out a few weeks ago. We've obviously been on a lockdown here in the UK up until the start of April, pretty much. And there's not really many opportunities to take photos. And when we were able to get out, it was like learning again, and it was like just trying to get back into that groove of like things like panning that you take for granted when you're out every week or every month shooting. You don't even think about it; it just happens naturally. But obviously, once you've not been doing it for sort of 3-6 months or whatever, it's one of them skills you need to sort of get back on top of. I don't know what you think, Martin.
Yeah, you got to stay on it. But like, I just want to add, like, the thing with photography is it doesn't stay still. It never stays still. The minute someone turns around and says they know everything about photography, it's not the hobby for them, because you can't. It is such a fluid hobby. That's what keeps it so interesting. Is that there's always something new to learn. There's always something new coming out. There's always something new you can learn. There's always something you can develop. I think that's why so many people enjoy photography as a whole, not just the aviation side.
Yeah, it definitely. And I think that's a good segue into my next question, to be honest, which is, are you interested in any other types of photography, Owen, or is it just aviation for you, or have you dabbled in anything else?
I've done a little bit of portrait stuff. I just don't have the opportunity to, I could probably do that on the side more. It's just a time thing. And, if you do it, you gotta be 100%, right? You can't just I'm not going to say, the process. So, I've done some things for family and whatnot, but I'd say, most of the time, my camera is going to be pointed at something with wings or a rotary.
Yeah, I totally get you there. Totally get you. I mean, I myself went out and did a bit of street photography just yesterday. It's the first time I've tried it. It was just because I've got a new lens that I wanted to try out, and to be honest, it was a breath of fresh air doing something different, and I enjoyed it. Just people watching for a couple of hours in my city centre. It was great. But no, if I had the choice, I would have been at a base somewhere taking photos. If I could have if I could have snuck away that far away for a couple of hours, that would have been great. No, but have you, Martin? Have you got the next one?
So for all of us that haven't been lucky enough to visit Airshow in the States, can you describe to all our listeners what US air shows like the atmosphere, the action on the ground and in the air?
I'd say it's very much a spectator sport. You've got some like Oshkosh. You'll have within a given week, almost 100,000 people come through there, and it's definitely huge. I mean, and then depending on the show, right? You've got different shows that are either at a base, or then you've got some shows that are being held on, say, beaches, right? I think there's Fort Lauderdale going on this weekend, and it's being done over the water. So it has definitely a different vibe to it, right? Because you don't have the ability to walk around and look at statics. So what they have to do is try to keep the action kind of nonstop, to keep people interested, right? So and they do a pretty good job of that. I've been to a few shows down at Pensacola Beach in July, where the Blues will do their show over the beach there, and it's pretty phenomenal. And they have a heck of a crowd. I mean, it's tough on traffic. You got to get there early, and you're probably going to be leaving late. But it's as I mentioned before, different shows have kind of a different feel, right? Oshkosh doesn't so much have a military presence. They've got much more of a civilian atmosphere. It's just because of its roots. It's in experimental aircraft, and most often those are propeller planes. So, and then you've got, big shows like, Oceana, Nellis, they've got their big show at the end of the year. And then Pensacola has a homecoming show down at their air base every November, and that show has a completely different feel to it because it's often a reunion for a lot of the former Blue Angel members, right? And it's a pretty special event in that regard. I was disappointed because last year homecoming was supposed to be the official transition to the new plane, and I was hoping to be down there for when they pull up in the Legacy, and then you would hope to have seen the brand new Super Hornet pull up next to the old Legacy, kind of like they did when they transitioned from the A4 to the F-18 back in 1987. So that's been quite a number of years. So I was hoping to witness something historic like that, but it just didn't happen. We had to do it all virtually. So, and that's another thing that's come out of COVID. Last year there were quite a number of virtual air shows. And, they were pretty successful, I'd say, but again, there's only so much you can get out of watching something on a video. There's nothing going to beat being in the presence of these things and these, wonderful flying machines in front of you. And giving you your personal ability to photograph, right? That's another thing. When I go to a show, I try to pick different spots along the flight line to try to get a little different perspective. A lot of people will try to get to center point, which, it's not always the best place, right? So that's something I try to do when I'm going to a show.
Yeah, no.
What's the flight?
Sorry, mate. Carry on.
What's the flight line like? Is it like set back quite away from the crowd, or is it fairly close?
It depends, but the FAA does have some regulations on how far the runway and the actual aerobatic box is well defined within FAA, for many good reasons. And so, yeah, you definitely have to take that into consideration when, photographing aircraft. If you can get toward the ends of the flight line, for extreme left or extreme right, you're more likely to get a little bit better shot because as they're coming into the aerobatic box, they may clip the flight line. It depends on the performer, but that's going to be your closest proximity.
Awesome. I was just going to say that's some good advice, to be honest, for tips for air shows, is to sort of not just pick one spot and sort of camp there for the day, is to sort of move around and sort of see what you can see, what you can sort of experience, and definitely not just from the flying action, maybe from sort of seeing the ground crew in operation and sort of getting some shots there as well, which is always nice to get. So no, I can definitely agree there. Just one of the questions I wanted to ask was obviously just about your Instagram in particular. I mean, you're obviously you've got fantastic Instagram. Like the photos on there are amazing. You're almost at 70,000 followers, which is just absolutely mind blowing. How long have you been on Instagram, and how long is it taking you to sort of amass that many followers?
This account, I've been on there 2.5 years or so. The past month, I recently moved, so there was about a month's time that I had a bit of a hiatus, and I got I'm just now trying to get some momentum back. It's very difficult to if you stop for any duration of time, it's like they forget about you. And so I'm trying to reestablish the pace I had before. It's probably going to take me a little while to do that, but about 2.5 years or so.
No, it's good going. It's really good going. And like I said, there's some amazing photos, obviously on there. I think one of the ones that came up just before we hit the record button was that C17 shot that you got with the mini vortex coming out of the engine. That's some shot, that is.
Yeah, that was at a show up in Davenport, Iowa, about 2 years ago, and I was up there basically local because of a business trip, and it just made some logistical sense for me to be able to attend that show. And that particular shot happened to be on the practice day on a Friday, and the jet was actually being stationed at a close airport, but not the one for the show, simply because the taxiways just aren't big enough to park it. And he came in, and as soon as he hit the ground, he threw it into reverse, and humidity level was pretty high that day. It was pretty overcast and almost drizzly. And so when he threw it into reverse, right, he immediately started condensing, the water vapor, and it just started sucking up into the engine. So I was kept my finger on the trigger there as much as I could. So I got about 10 or 12 good shots. And it shows, every shot shows like a different, the vortex in a different spot, right? Yeah. So it's one of those times I wish I had video, but I was fortunate to get some good shots, stills.
Yeah, no, it's a great photo, and it's just for me, it's one of them shots that shows that, like, of one of those things that you can spot at an air show or an air base, is like the detail of what's actually going on there. And obviously it gets people thinking about, well, why is that happening? Why is there like a little tornado going into the engine, sort of thing? And it might even inspire people to sort of get into engineering and understand what's going on there and things like that. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff, definitely.
Absolutely.
You got any other questions, Martin, about Owen's pictures? That
I mean, I couldn't even pick one. They're all great. I mean, the one thing I will ask, I mean, I don't know if you'll know the answer or not, is that you got all the photographers in America, like the bigger accounts, the clarity on your pictures is insane compared to what we seem to get over here. And considering we generally it's the same equipment, do you think it's down to atmospheric conditions that's making things better for you guys, or?
I really don't know if there's if that's got anything to do with it. I mean, it's I guess I mean, atmospheric conditions do play a part, right? If you got high humidity and just damp conditions, right, you got a lot of moisture in the air, of course that's going to soften things a bit. But I mean, if you can get out, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You want some level of humidity, especially if you're watching a jet team. You want to see those vapes, right? So, for them to squeeze out water vapor, it's got to be in the air, right? So, you just, it's kind of a delicate balance, right? So, having just, I guess, steady hand, right? What really boils down to, and a good choice of shutter speed, right? So, I shoot anywhere from, high speed planes anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500, and as long as you can maintain a pretty good ISO, right? That's the thing from a clarity standpoint. If you can keep your ISO low, you can reduce that graininess, right? And so I try my best to keep, at 400 or below. when I'm shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a delicate balance, right? You know, you just have to know your equipment and its capabilities too. Right. You know, the D500 I used to shoot with, you know, it was a crop sensor. So it would give you the sense you had more reach than a full frame. So, you know, you were able to get those, you got a little bit more reach, but now I'm shooting a full frame, and it's a bit different. But now in post process, I can zoom in a little bit more if I'm doing crops, and it's incredible the detail that I can, you know, maintain with that. And you know, it's you know, you just got to know your equipment and know its capabilities, right? I mean, you zoom in too much, you're ultimately going to get that graininess, right? You know, of the shots you see, I guarantee there's 100 or 200 of shots that aren't any good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we all know that. That's it. We only put out the best of the best, don't we? That's what we do. But no, I totally agree with your point though about getting to know your equipment. Too often I get questions through DMs on Instagram about, oh, well, what camera should I buy? What camera have you got? Okay, so what lens have you got? Okay, so do you know everything about that setup? Well, not really. No. Well, learn it. Like that's it's the most basic advice you could give anyone that wants to get into photography. Take the camera and the lens that you've got and squeeze as much learning out of it as you possibly can. Then when you get to a point where your photography is being held back by that system, that's when you look to buy a new camera. And I think that, for me, any advice to anyone that's looking at any sort of photography, not just aviation, it's invaluable. And like you say, you've got to learn your equipment and know how it's going to react in situations.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. Just one of the pictures I wanted to touch on of yours that you quite kindly sent over to us before we started recording was the catch of the Blue Angels. That's I mean, obviously there's a lot of good Blue Angel shots out there, but I really do like that one just because of the sense of how close they are together. I think you caught them at sort of a really good angle. And
that's their they call it the Diamond 360 or it's normally one of the very first maneuvers that the Diamond will do for the crowd. And that was actually at homecoming back in, let's see, I believe it was 2017. Yep, 2017. And I published the photo, right? And I did a close-up of the wingtips between, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And just to show how close they are.
Yeah, it's literally about 2 inches. I'm looking at the photo right now. It's literally, I mean, if you were the number 4 jet underneath those 2 wings, you'd be thinking they're going to touch in a second. They are just amazing.
Fortunately, there's some illusion to it. They do maintain 18 inches apart, but so the illusion is on purpose, right? So if you were to look at that formation from behind, you would see that 2 and 3 are offset just enough to where they maintain a safe distance. But so that photo got spread around, and someone on the team got a hold of it, and I wasn't absolutely confirm this, but rumor is that photo is in one of their ready rooms.
Nice. and for me, I don't know about Martin, but if you get your work put up in a squadron ready room or a base or whatnot, it's just that's the ultimate sort of recognition of your work, isn't it?
It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, if the people who are the subjects of these photos that we're taking are happy enough to put that on their wall, either in their homes or their place of work, then that's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So that following spring, for the winter training in El Centro, I had the opportunity to get out there, and on the very last Saturday that they perform before they head back to Pensacola, that they'll come out and meet and greet the photographers that they affectionately call the hay balers. The reason for that is El Centro is a very agricultural area, believe it or not. And, years ago, they would have stacks of hay bales toward the end of the runway, and people would literally stand on top of the hay bale as the planes were coming back into land. And, it's you talking about 10, 12 feet above your head, right? So they don't do that anymore from a safety standpoint, but they still call the people that kind of hang out outside the perimeter of the base to hay balers. So my wife and I had the opportunity to go out there, and then I had printed some copies of those photos and signed them. And I just wanted to give a personal copy to Boss. And at the time, it was when I took the photo, it was number 3, but he became slot pilot number 4. I gave them both a copy of the photo and had an opportunity to get my photo taken with them.
That's great. No, that's really good, and it's good to see that the display teams, even over there in America, are the same as sort of our Red Arrows over here. Is that they're very much about that sort of interaction with the fans, and especially sort of like the younger ones as well. So whenever they've done a display over here, they'll fly in on a helicopter if they've not landed at that particular base, for example, and they'll fly in and they'll do meet and greets with the people that are there. And I mean, I think Martin, you were lucky enough to actually go on base up at Scampton a couple of years ago, weren't you? Met a couple of them. Was it last year, wasn't it?
Yes,
that was started.
2020. Yes, January 2020.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I obviously got to go along and join in with winter training and watch them, and then I think it was Red 2, Red 3, and Red 5. They come out and a little photo shoot, and then they had a nice little talk with everyone, and it was nice that they put that effort in to interact with us normal people.
And that's it. That's what it's about, isn't it? It's like it's almost like, for some people, it's meeting your heroes, isn't it? And it's wonderful when they take the time out of their busy schedule to come and say hello to you and sort of talk to you about your photography or your interest in aviation, and sort of shake your hand and have a look at your images. It's great, really is good. And I can see there you've obviously sent us a photo over as well, where you were shaking the hand of that Blue Angels pilot. So,
that was Boss Doyle.
Yeah,
and he was in one of the instrumental people who, once he passed the baton, he transitioned to the team responsible for adopting the new Super Hornet. So he remained on base and worked with the team pretty closely for quite some time, even after he was boss. So
that's good. That's good. Have you had a chance to see the Super Hornet yet display?
No. And that was going to be Beaufort back in April, right?
Yeah.
So that show got canceled. So my next opportunity from a location standpoint is probably going to be the Oceania show, and that's in September.
Well, me and Martin and all of the Avgeeks Assemble will keep our fingers crossed for you, the same as we're keeping our fingers crossed for all the air shows across the world to go ahead this year, because I think we all need it, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Right, so we've got a couple of questions from within the Avgeeks group. Our editor Mike has asked, what equipment other than your camera do you always take with you to an air show? That's like you like, there'd be like the top 3 things that you must take with you to have a successful air show from a shooting point of view.
From a shooting standpoint, of course, yeah. I mean, it goes without saying, my camera. I use iOS right? So I've got my iPhone. So I do a lot of editing, believe it or not, simply on my iPhone. I use Lightroom on it. So, and to get images from my camera to my phone, I use the SD card adapter. And I can't go anywhere without it. So that's absolutely essential. Extra batteries, right? Definitely got to maintain, battery power, because you're not going to get the shot if you don't have the power to shoot. And then, it's always nice to have a couple extra cards available, just in case you have a malfunction, or you end up taking 5,000-6,000 shots.
Yeah,
and then it's midday. You're like, I've run out of memory. No, so I try to stick at least 1 or 2 extra cards in my bag. But other things that I always make sure I have: ear protection, sunscreen, and water. That's the worst thing you can have to deal with after a show is a bad sunburn.
Yeah,
and it's easy to get dehydrated, because you're not thinking about thirst when you've got planes going by. All you're thinking about is getting that shot, right? But it's absolutely important to work on hydration. And I always tell people it's not that day you really want to start hydrating at least 24 hours ahead of time. So that would be some advice I would give, especially if it's going to be a summer show. Temperatures get up there, right? And if you can protect your skin. I've recently started wearing, even in the middle of a July or August show, I'll wear a long sleeve shirt just to protect my arms from the sun. So my father-in-law is having to deal with a lot of skin cancer type stuff, because he was a biologist, so he was outside a lot in his career, and now he's having to pay for all the pain and having to have things removed because he didn't think about protecting his skin. So when people say wear sunscreen, it's with good sound advice, I think.
No, definitely. I totally echo that. That's very sound advice. And even for people who are listening, probably from the UK right now, thinking, well, we don't get good weather like that. It can happen anytime. I mean, we recently went on a base trip to Mildenhall and Lakenheath in the middle of April. And although we woke up with frosts every morning, I came back and my face was like sunburnt, because the sun at that time of the year is quite strong. So I totally echo what you're saying. You need to, as much thought and effort as us as photographers put into maintaining our camera equipment and making sure that we've got the batteries and everything that we need there. We need to also take care of ourselves and make sure that we're operating at the peak performance as well, because that can affect the sort of photos that you're going to get. If you're feeling tired or dehydrated or anything like that, sunburn, you're not going to be firing on all cylinders, are you? So no,
yep.
It's good advice. It's good advice, definitely. I think that brings all of the questions that we have to end. Have you got any others, Martin, that you can think of?
No, I think everything's been covered.
So what we normally do on the podcast at this point is we normally ask the guest if they've got any questions for us. So have you got any questions for us, Owen?
Yeah. Either of you been to the mock loop?
Well, that's. I'll take the lead on this one, Martin.
Yeah, over to you, mate.
Yes, and I've got to say it's my favourite place to go shooting for aviation photography. There's just, it's not, people in this country are not cynical, but they're a bit they're like, oh well, it's not as good as it used to be, and that's true to an extent. We don't get typhoons through there at the moment. We don't get some of the wonderful airframes that used to fly through there, like Tornadoes and Harriers and things like that. But for me, that anticipation of being on the hillside, knowing that there's jets in the area because you can hear them rumbling between the valleys and the hills, and then maybe you get someone with a scanner nearby and they go LFA 7 Mach loop for 20 mics, and you just think yes. And then the moment they come around the brow of that hill, and you just focused on getting the shots, it is a sensational place to be for aviation photography. It really is. And I would put it above any air show and any base that I've been to. I just love being out in the countryside, in the wild, taking photos of jets. I think it's amazing. I mean, we've also got other low fly areas in the UK. With the Lake District is probably the next most popular, and then we've got the Highlands of Scotland as well. And unfortunately, I've had a couple of trips to the lakes that weren't productive, a couple of blanks, unfortunately, but I'm hoping to put that right at the end of this month, actually. So, but no, it's great. Have you got, I know you've got quite a few spots over in America that are popular for low level flying, obviously, because we see that through Instagram. Have you got somewhere like that near to yourself?
Well, not too far. There's a spot on what in the United States we call the low level route, or either VR or IR routes, visual or instrument. And I've had the opportunity to get up on a mountain in Virginia, and it's on VR 42. And you almost have to know when something's going to be flying, because they don't fly it very often. But I've acquired some friends through Instagram, and we've got some insight into some F-16 squadrons. I'm sorry, F-15 squadrons, who often use that in their B course training. So I've had the opportunity to get up there at least twice. And I've got a few images up on my Instagram showing some F-15s and knife edge.
Oh yeah.
That caught the attention of the students. So they've got high res copies.
Nice, that's great. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's great over here with the Mach loop, because like obviously 9 times out of 10, those people that are in the loop are putting pictures up on Instagram or on Facebook, and obviously these pilots are on Instagram and Facebook, and they find those images, and quite often we end up sending some to them and saying, yeah, no, it's the least we can do to sort of say thanks for the entertainment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It really is. I love it. I really do.
Star Wars Canyon, that'd be a place to go if they were using it. I've got to say.
Yeah, I think they've. I don't know if they fly it near as much since they had the accident. Quite some time ago. Yeah.
Have you managed to get across there, Owen, to Star Wars Canyon? No.
No, I haven't been in the Southwest, unfortunately, other than El Centro. That was one special trip just for that. But when I do eventually get out to Nellis, I'd like to try to get out there. But of course, I would have to know if it was an active area. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I discovered recently, and obviously because I've never been before, obviously I think a lot of people get confused that because Star Wars Canyon isn't being used right now, that's it, there's no low flying happening down there. But obviously the whole route, low level route, that to use your terminology, is actually known as the Jedi transition, I think. And actually Star Wars Canyon is only a very small part of that.
Right.
And obviously that's not being used after the tragic accident a couple of years ago, but the rest of the route is still being used, and there is some amazing images coming out of there, and it's certainly somewhere high on my list that I'd like to get to one day.
Yeah, there's a route up in the Pacific Northwest, and growlers often fly in and out of that route, and there's some pretty awesome imagery of those.
Yeah, and that's what makes Instagram a great place for aviation photography, isn't it? You get to see all these wonderful places that they're doing these low-level routes, as well as the air show shots, as well as the base shots, and then the occasional pilot who chips in with their cockpit shots and makes us all jealous.
Yeah, right.
That's it. So, right, I think that's it. I think that just about gets us back to base after another flight. We hope Owen enjoyed it and there wasn't too much turbulence. What we'll do is we'll go around the group, and obviously just starting with Owen, we'll just get your Instagram handle, which I think I already gave at the start, but you can plug it again. It's not a problem. And then we'll go from there.
All right. You can find me at owen.aviation.photo.
Brilliant. That's great. Are you just on Instagram, or are you on any other socials?
I do have a Facebook page and a group that you can link to through. You just search Owen's Aviation Photos, and I'll pop up.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you, Martin.
So it's the same for Facebook and Instagram, and it's Delta_wings_images.
Brilliant. Thanks, mate. And I am Anthony at Anthony_Fogarty_aviation. And you can find me on Instagram with that. Just Anthony Fogarty on Facebook. And I keep saying that I'm going to make YouTube videos for my YouTube. I have only got 2 at the moment. And I will eventually make some more videos. So if you do want to check that out, that's great. Thank you very much for listening to us on this episode of the Avgeeks Assemble podcast. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please drop us a DM on Instagram or a message through our Facebook group with any feedback or any questions or anything like that. In episode 9, we will have another special guest on the podcast, and this time we'll be speaking to another stateside aviation photographer who has gained an amazing following through Instagram, which is almost 50,000 followers. In fact, over 50,000 followers now, excuse me. And he's also a United States Air Force crew chief, which is it's going to be quite interesting. So if you can figure out who it is that we are talking about and you'd like to get your question answered by him, then please drop us a DM again. Our Instagram is at AvGeeks_Assemble, and we'll start a topic on the Facebook group for any questions that people want to send in. If everyone's good, everyone's happy. Thanks again, Owen. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
And hopefully we might bump into each other one day at Oshkosh or something like that, or even down in Oceania or something, because I do want to do all these big shows, because there's only so long you can sit there watching them on YouTube.
Exactly.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks very much. And everyone stay safe out there, and we'll see you at the fence.